Hey everyone, this is Paul, and in this video I'm going to talk about creating tension in the deadlift and 3 simple cues to achieve this. Now, to define tension, what I'm referring to is the muscles being in a contracted state prior to lifting the barbell off the floor. This is going to be important for 2 reasons. One, for technical proficiency. We want to minimize any irrelevant movements which can waste energy, which can be better spent on pulling the barbell from the floor to the lockout position. Okay, so we want to stay rigid and stiff to minimize these irrelevant movements that can occur when we don't have that tension in the setup. And also to minimize injury risk. So this is particular in the spine and its surrounding structures. We want to have stiffness and the spine being in a rigid position, so when we're pulling the barbell off the floor, the flexor torque that gets created from the barbell onto our back and spine area, we want to minimize this as much as we can, again, so we can minimize injury on this area. So when we're setting up for the deadlift, we're creating tensions in 3 parts of the trunk. One being the abdominal cavity, the next being the lumbar spine, and these 2 are going to take care of this kind of bottom half of the trunk. And then also we want to extend the upper back and getting tension in that upper thoracic area. So these are the 3 parts of the body to which we are creating tension before we lift the barbell off the floor. So now for those 3 areas I just talked about, we're going to associate a cue for building tension in each of those areas. So 1 cue for 1 area. So first up, for the abdominal cavity, this is just going to be the taking in that big breath of air, so you're building that 360 degrees of pressure, which is going to give that stiffness and stability of the spine. For everyone who's watching this, I'm going to just do assumed knowledge of that you know how to take in that big breath and keep that tension in that midsection. If you do not, just leave a comment below and I will make a whole separate video talking about that. The next is we want to get tension in the lumbar spine. So this is just getting the lumbar extensors into extension before we lift the barbell off the floor. I have already made a video. It's on my YouTube account and it's on the Instagram TV thing that you're probably watching this on. There's a whole video that just covers how to extend the spine. Okay, so that cue of extension of the spine, that's going to cover this back lumbar area, keeping it into extension so we can offset the flexor torque which gets created when we're trying to pull a barbell off the floor. And lastly is the upper back thoracic area. So this is that cue that you hear of pulling on the bar, taking a slack out on the bar. So we're basically pulling on the bar to keep the upper back in extension, again, to offset the flexor torque which wants to get created from pulling the barbell off the floor. Again, if you are unsure how to get that upper back tension done properly, leave a comment below and I'll make a whole separate video covering that. Okay, so let's put all these together and see how we can implement these 3 cues in the setup to maximize tension of the trunk and just keep it really simple. So when I approach the bar, firstly I'm going to set my hip height. For myself, I like to set my hips in the position I'm going to lift from. There's other people, how they like to do it is they set their hips high and then they kind of wind them down and then lift the barbell in that way. There's no right or wrong way of doing that. It is personal preference. For me personally, I rather set my hips in the right position because this minimizes movements before doing the initial pull, because when I do too many movements, I tend to make an error. So once the hips are set, I'm going to do 3 cues, and I do this in the exact same order every single time. So first, I'm going to do my lumbar spine, get tension in the lumbar spine. So this is going to be that extension of the lumbar. So I do this and hold this. Next, I'm going to take care of that upper thoracic area. So this is that pulling on the bar cue. And lastly, I'm going to take that big breath in so I can build that abdominal pressure. Now, once I do these 3 things, I'm not going to lose this position. The position that my trunk is in is the position I'm going to keep as I pull the barbell off the floor. So you do not want to lose this tension as you start to pull the bar. So the common issue I usually see is that people will get into this lumbar extension, they'll do the upper back extension, they'll be holding it, but then just as they go to pull off the bar, they let go, and then they lose that trunk position. So you want to, as I said, you want to make sure when you have extended the lumbar spine, extended the thoracic area, hold this and try not to lose that position of the trunk as you start to pull the bar off the floor. On a side note, there are some individuals who have to lift with a slightly rounded back. This is fine. Just because it's rounded doesn't mean there is tension. You can still do the lumbar extension as best as they can. Still do the upper back extension as best as they can. It might look a little bit rounded, but it is still in a braced and rigid position. However, what I don't want to see is that as they start to pull the bar off the floor, they lose the position and the spine rounds even further. So whatever rounding or trunk position you start with is the trunk position which should stay as you start to pull the bar off the floor. So again, just to summarize the 3 cues that what we want to do when we're pulling the bar off the floor. 1, we want to set our lumbar extensors, so get that back into extension. 2, we want to pull the slack out of the bar and get our upper back into extension. 3, we want to take in our big breath into our abdominals and creating that 360 degrees of pressure. These 3 cues should cover your entire trunk segment. There should be a bunch of tension built up within the trunk, and then you want to hold this as you pull the bar off the floor and do not lose your position. And the last note, I talked about that I do those 3 cues in a specific order. You don't have to do it in the same order that I do them. You might find that you like to take your breath first, pull on the bar and extend your back, or you might want to pull the bar, extend your back, take your breath last. It doesn't matter what order you get them in because you are still getting to the end goal. If you do all of those 3 steps, you will achieve the end goal of maximizing tension in your trunk. So play around with the order, find which is the most comfortable for you, and then each time you deadlift, replicate that order. So you've kind of got this checklist as you were setting up for the deadlift. So when I approach the bar, I've got this checklist. Have I extended my spine? Yep. Have I pulled the bars, my upper back tight? Yep. Have I taken in my breath? Yep. I won't be able to say yet because I'm holding my breath and I won't be able to talk. They're done and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm ready to lift the bar off the floor. So if you enjoyed this video, please share it with your friends. If you didn't enjoy the video, then don't share it with your friends. If you've got ideas of other technical things on squats, deadlifts, or bench that you'd like me to cover, leave a comment, and if I have knowledge on that topic, then I will get around to making a video for that.
Online coaching is available for those who are looking to improve their strength, physique, or compete in powerlifting. This includes an individualized training program made for your needs and goals, macronutrient and calorie recommendations to improve performance and body composition, technical analysis on your main lifts, along with weekly check-ins whereby you will receive a video to give you guidance for the following week. To find out more or book a free consult, visit paulattardes.com.